have myself here, and to my left is Jack Walsh on the committee, and Hong Tran on the right, and then we have Paul McDaniel, we have Councilmember Susan Honda, and Council President Linda Kochmar. Do we have Lydia on the phone?
Not yet.
Okay, well, you'll let me know, because I can never see when we do this. Okay, so the meeting is called to order. First order of business is item 2, public comment. This is where anybody can come forward and take up to 3 minutes and express their views. Do we have any public comment? Okay, seeing we have none, we'll go to committee business. Is there any unfinished business or anything from last meeting anybody'd like to bring up? No, okay, we'll pass on that, and we'll move on to item A, approval of the minutes from September 8th, 2025.
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Now we'll move to item B, which is high friction surface treatment improvements bid award. And I'm not going to pronounce your name correctly, but you get to come up. You were here recently, so thank you.
Good evening, Chair Jack Doby and council members and committee members. I am Shuma Chattopadhyay, Traffic Operation Engineer. I am presenting in front of you Systemic High Friction Surface Treatment Improvement Projects Bid Award. Policy question. Should the council award the High Friction Surface Treatment Improvement Projects award to the lowest and only responsible bidder? Background information. Only one bid was received and opened on September 8, 2025. For the High Friction Surface Treatment Improvements Project. The lowest responsible bidder is Combined Construction Inc. with a total bid amount of $535,196. Proposed schedules and recommended for award. I am reading the different locations. We have chosen 6 locations for high friction surface, and I am reading those with the bidder cost. 16th Avenue South Curve, east of SR 99, $82,932. South 372nd Street, Milton Road South Curve, south of South 369th Street, $84,040. Redondo Way South Curve, west of 13th Avenue South, $92,704. 10th Avenue Southwest Curve, south of Southwest 335th Street, $96,360. South 349th Street, Warehouser Way South Curve, east of 30th Avenue South, $96,280. South 372nd Way, 12th Avenue South Curve, north of 373rd Street, $82,880. Total construction contract, $535,196. Project budget. Construction expenditures, construction contract, $535,196. Construction contract contingency 10%, $54,000. Construction management and inspection, $80,000. Total construction expenditures, $669,196. Available funding, HSIP grant, $852,000. Fund 102 motor vehicle and fuel tax, $22,100. Total funding available, $874,100. Options considered. Option 1, award the recommended schedules to the Combined Construction Incorporated, the lowest responsible bidder, in the amount of $535,196, and authorize the contingency in the amount $54,000 for a maximum contract authority of $589,196, and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. Option 2, reject all bids for the high-friction surface treatment improvement projects and direct staff to rebid the project and return to the committee for further action. The mayor recommends option 1.
Okay, Councilman McDaniel?
Yeah, quick couple questions.
Questions.
First one is gonna be, what exactly is the high friction? Like, is it a spray-on, are they tearing it up? What do they do for the high friction surface treatment?
It is for the increasing of the friction in the surface so that the road runoff type of accident will be less. It is the binding materials and calcined bauxite.
Okay, so is it something they do to the road, or is it something they add to the road?
It will add to the road. It is a less than 1/4 inch together, 1/4 inch thickness.
Okay.
So it will be added in the road surface.
Got you. Now, is this, I know when someone had come up earlier and mentioned this months ago, that there was a new material that was gonna be used. Is this what this is? It's kind of we're kind of testing it out?
Yeah, so the grant that Shoma referenced is a demonstration grant to test it in different climates. So that's part of the way we got this money, yes.
Is that the grant that came back a couple months ago? Or was this a while back?
This grant came in probably 1.5 to 2 years ago. So depending on how a couple months is in your head, it could be.
They all blur, they do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's probably the one you're thinking of, but I'm not positive, to be fair.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then the second one is the Fund 102, is it restricted strictly to road improvements?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So it looks like this is mostly in neighborhoods or streets leading into neighborhoods, is that correct? It's not on main streets throughout town?
It is on 16th Avenue South and 99 also. So it's not only in the neighborhood, 10th Avenue Southwest is the neighborhood one, but we have also where we have the intersection, signalized intersection.
So are those like on hills or something?
No, 16th Avenue is a curve, horizontal curve, so which needs more friction.
Do those areas have high record numbers of accidents?
Yes,
And that's how they were chosen?
yes. It is
So-
one of the criteria, and it is from local safety grants.
So because there's more available funding than what it's going to cost, is it possible to add more locations?
No, this is the 6 location we chosen, so I don't know what we will do, whether we will get those money or not. That is,
Do we get to keep?
I am
those?
not aware of that, but maybe,
No, so we applied for the 6 locations based on vehicle crash data. They're all on curbs in the roadway for runoff the road accidents that this is targeted to reduce.
So do we get to keep the extra money from the
No,
grant?
we do not.
We have to turn it back.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Council President?
So who is the HSIP grant? What does the initial stand for, and who's it from?
It's highway, might have to phone a friend and call Rick here.
highway.
It's highway something safety project.
improvement- Highway safety improvement funds, right?
Yeah,
But
highway
is-
safety improvement.
Is it from the State Department of Transportation or federal, or who?
It's federal money administered by WashDOT.
Did they pick us, or did we apply?
We applied with a variety of different locations, and they selected the top 6 out of those to fund.
So, and all the time I've been here, I've never heard of this kind of a treatment on the road. So this is something new?
It's relatively new. King County's been doing it for a while, and, there's certain things that, actually what triggered this is when we started doing the local road safety plans. Some patterns popped out that we hadn't noticed before from the way we were evaluating safety. And it changed our perspective a little bit and said, here's a pattern of collisions that systemically we could try to do something about at a reasonable cost. And so that's how this treatment came.
So, thank you, I appreciate that. So now, is the money going to come in all at once or in increments as each phase is completed? Or is it coming from the government, federal government? Is it one fell swoop? How does it come in?
So basically, during construction, we'll be monthly submitting invoices
So you get
to the
reimbursed?
state and get reimbursed,
Re-
yes.
Basically. Thanks. So there's no chance we wouldn't get reimbursed?
I have not heard of any holdups in payments through WashDOT at this point.
Thank you.
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, I was just going to say, to be helpful with something like that, if there was a map showing where they were at, so we'd have a little better idea of that. But that's all.
There was a presentation on this a few months ago.
Yeah, quite a while ago, yeah.
With the maps and all that.
I don't,
Yeah.
too long ago for this guy with
memory.
a short memory to,
So I do have one question, if you may. Oh, there it is, look at
There it
that.
is.
All right, great, thank you.
See, the master pushed the right button,
Yes.
and they're all curves.
Yeah, these are the 6 locations.
Okay. Hey, I do have one question on your budget, if you go back. You got the 589,196. Go back one more, please. Where's the 80,000 go? Because you got 589 and it's 669,196. Are we paying ourselves 80,000 to construction manage this, or where's that, why isn't that on here?
Construction management and inspections we are doing in-house. So this is what we will get after doing that. And construction contract and construction contract contingency will go to the bidder.
Okay.
Correct. So for grants like this, we charge the grant agency
And
our
we should.
inspection time.
We
So
should.
that is, if we only showed the construction budget, we'd be over budget effectively, right? So we show the anticipated amount based on the contractor's schedule that we should be billing the grant agency for the inspection time.
Okay, so the 80,000 doesn't have to be in the contract, of course, but it will be
It
billed
covers-
back to WASP.
Correct. It covers staff time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Councilmember McDaniel?
Yeah, I'm looking at the bottom, it says May to September 2020. Is that the starting? And if so, when do we estimate this to be complete?
It has some constraint like the temperature constraint, so it should be in the summer, peak summer. So we can construct that in the range 55 degree Fahrenheit to 105 degree Fahrenheit. So one of the locations, we want that in the nighttime, that is 16th and 99. So with the temperature constraint, I will say maybe during the summer from May to September when the temperature will permit.
And then I'm assuming that the friction is going to be for the wetter season, so we'll be able to see maybe next year if we do see a drop in accidents. Oh, cool.
Yes.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Hey, Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, just one point, unavailable funding, the 22,000 that's from Fund 102. Is that something that we need to spend in order for matching stuff, or is that something we're not going to need to do, and we could keep that?
That is contingency, you mean?
So most likely that will be kept. That's ultimately, so there's, all of these grants have a grant matching requirement from local agencies to show you have some skin in the game and that you're participating. So we had to declare that as part of the application, so that carries through with the project. Usually, when we get to the end, the grant agency says, hey, you're under budget, 100% reimbursable, and then we would keep that. But that's not something we definitively know until construction's
Okay.
finished. But that would be my anticipation,
Okay.
yes.
Sounds good, thank you.
Councilmember Honda?
So is this something that needs to be done again over time, or how long will this last on the road?
It can last as long as the pavement will be good there. Maybe 10 years.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Good. Okay, do I have a motion? Mr. Hahn?
Chair Dovey, I move to forward option 1 to the October 21st, 2025 City Council consent agenda for approval.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We'll now move to item C, 2024-2025 Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program Projects. Mr. Kennedy.
Good evening, Chairman Dovey and committee members Tran and Walsh and council members McDaniel, Honda, and Kochmar. Thank you for having me tonight. I'll be speaking with you about, bring here to present for your consideration, the request for approval and design and construction of the 2024-2025 NTS projects. So the question is, should council authorize the design and construction of multiple projects up to the maximum budget amount? So a little background information. So we've been busy the past couple years. We've conducted 55 NTS studies, and a considerable amount of those were in 2025. And of those that we studied, 13 of them passed or met NTS criteria, so that's about 23%, so almost a quarter. I provided just a kind of some reference in terms of, so you can compare what we've done in the past 10 years, highlighting in yellow the last two being significantly higher in number comparatively to the previous years. And most of that is related to the traffic's division's more proactive direction in terms of going to initiate our own studies, not just relying on the public to reach out to us and identify locations. So on that note, 5 of the 8 studies that did meet the criteria were ones that the city identified, not requested specifically by the public. We conducted 18 of our own studies, 1 in each of the elementary school attendance areas. And here is the list of, not where to put this thing. The whole list of the 13 that passed or met NTS criteria. Now, these are ranked strictly, I want to be clear, they're strictly ranked just on points only at this point. And part of that reason is because we don't have an idea on specific budgets on any of these, as we don't have exact projects identified for some of these because they haven't gone through the entire process of what the residents or the local people who are concerned identified or came to a consensus yet on. So right now, we don't have an idea exact on criteria for budget. We have an estimate, which I'll cover in a minute, but these are ranked in points scored, highest to lowest. Some of which were in 2024, some were in 2025. And here is a map of that list. As you can see, they're pretty spread, throughout the city and the residential areas. So, going back to the budget part, we have an annual budget of $100,000. The current budget will not cover the construction of all of those 13 based on our estimate of what an average project would cost. So any project that doesn't fit in this year's budget will be reprioritized and can remain on the list, but it'll be reprioritized for next year and future years. So we kind of estimate about a $15,000 construction cost. That's on an average, but, some can be a little higher, depending on what it is that was decided and agreed to, kind of the consensus came to from the public meeting and that sort of thing. So we propose that about 6 or 7 of the top projects will be able to be funded based on that estimate of $15,000 per location. So the options in front of you are option 1, authorize the design and construction of multiple NTS projects up to the maximum budget amount, or do not authorize and provide direction to staff.
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, what will some of these projects be?
Well, after looking at the locations and doing the studies themselves, initially, many of them will probably be speed humps. That's kind of the more prevalent ones that we have. So based on the locations that are on this list, many of them seem to fit that that kind of standard treatment. But that's not to say that there aren't other things that we could look at. We have to explore those, obviously, with the public through our public meeting, and also determine if there's other unique ways that we can address some of these issues that speed humps are not always preferred from our plows and the first responders, fire as well. So we always take that into consideration. But speed humps are likely a majority of these.
If not speed humps, what else would be other options?
Well, we have things such as signing and markings, which are low cost. We also have options such as horizontal deflection. So while most of these are not at intersections, we do have compact roundabouts. We're actually almost finishing up one of our NTS compact roundabout at Southwest 340th and 19th right now from a couple years ago. And so that's one option. Those are a little bit more higher priced, in terms of countermeasures. We also have chicanes and.
Chicanes, what?
Chicanes are a horizontal deflection that essentially diverts traffic horizontally, so that would essentially slow people down because they have to shift from their straight path at which they're going. So those chicanes can be a variety of materials. It can be hardened, they can be soft, such as plastic. It can be hardened asphalt or concrete type materials. So there's a variety of options we have with those as well.
Okay. A couple of weeks ago, there was some emails that came in from I think it was
Twin
over
Lakes.
the Twin Lakes area, and addressing this type of thing. And I take it that area was not where one of these studies was done?
Well, so we did go out and conduct an NTS study. It did not pass.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, at least under the NTS program, there's no intent to have anything done at this point.
Okay. What were their complaints anyway? I mean, what?
It appears from the email that we received, it was focused a lot on stop signs, having some stop control there at that location, which again is not something that we would typically, we'd not do under NTS anyways. It's against the MUTCD for dealing with speed control.
So, in my neighborhood, there was actually a number of years ago in the Alderbrook neighborhood on, you turn off of, 13th, 14th, and it winds around and comes into the 325th. And there was a stop sign put in there that I think was just strictly for speed control, wasn't it? Because, I mean, there's traffic coming from the other way is almost non-existent. And so at that time, it was long before I was on city council, but I was told that it was for speed control.
So that may have certainly been some public's perception of why it was done, but you can't use stop signs for speed control. I mean, it's been proven time and time again that they don't work for that. So we put stop signs up and the neighborhoods say, you did it to address speed control, which is I've heard that as well in different locations. That doesn't necessarily make it accurate.
Okay, because where that is, it's
Yeah,
completely.
Rick might have some more
Completely
details on that
illogical
one
for a
specific.
stop sign.
Yeah, and that's a common request, and people want to believe that a stop sign is going to solve their speeding issues. And it does for about 50 feet either side of the stop sign. And that's assuming people actually stop. When I first got here under the NTS program, that was considered one of the options to put in an all-way stop. And over time, as we discovered that these were not effective, and also bringing my previous experience of the fact that they don't work, and potentially cause worse problems if people continually violate them. So the NTS policy has shifted over that time, and we no longer do that.
Okay, all right, sounds good. I'd suggest a certain stop sign be removed then, but anyway. It's a pain in the neck and doesn't accomplish anything, so.
We can take a look at it.
Councilmember Honda?
Oh, thank you. So Star Lake Road, the Mark Twain Elementary School has a driveway right off Star Lake. And talking to the folks that live along Star Lake Road, there recently was a pretty big accident there. But traffic has increased significantly since Sound Transit started their construction, and it doesn't look like it's going to really go back to what it was. People have found a shortcut, and I'm sure they'll continue to use it. Is there any way we can do something on that road to make it safer for the kids walking to school? Parents have said that now they're driving their kids to school, even though it only takes minutes to walk, but it's just not safe.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it doesn't meet criteria. It's 35 miles there, so it does not qualify to be included in an NTS program. So, but Rick and I can discuss that. We did a traffic study there, provided EJ, the data from that. The 85th percentile was 40 miles an hour, and 35 is not horrible, in terms of over the speed limit, but that's something that Rick and I can chat about.
Is there any way we could lower the speed limit there? It's a city street, right?
So we certainly have the ability to modify that speed limit. Whether it would be successful or not is another issue, given the speeds that are out there. And one thing to keep in mind, yes, it was a tragic situation that occurred out there, but realistically, it's an outlier. And we haven't had, are there speeders? Absolutely. Were they as extreme as this particular incident? No. When somebody comes up behind somebody going like twice as fast and tries to pass on the right, something bad's going to happen. So, I think part of the problem with setting speed limits is setting reasonable expectations that people feel are reasonable enough that they will observe them. And, the last thing I think our police need is another thing to try and enforce when they're, outgunned, essentially, that there's so much violation going on that you can only pick the worst of the worst, which is often the case anyway when it comes to speed enforcement. So, but I have to say, we happened to drive through there at lunch, and given the on-street parking prevalence, I think you could make an argument that maybe we could look at reducing it. I think it would be best to pair it with something else that would help reduce the feeling that people feel it's okay to drive 35, 40 miles an hour on that. I think that would be more effective overall. We have done other things in the past. Actually, that was our first Safe Route to School project, where we put in the rectangular rapid flashing beacon. That was one of our early implementations of that, and constructed the sidewalk all the way up the driveway to the school. So We have done stuff in the past. There's still there's plenty of room for improvement with respect to, completing sidewalks on Star Lake. And, maybe it makes sense to look at perhaps a compact roundabout or some type of neck downs at the crosswalk to make the crosswalk shorter, and have kids exposed less to traffic. That's just a couple ideas off the top of my head.
I was going to ask you about a roundabout, because I know they've slowed traffic down on 330th quite a bit.
Yes.
And it's just, it's a school a lot of kids walk to.
Yes.
It's a very, I don't know the percentage, but I used to work there years ago, and all the homes around there, the kids walk. And when parents are saying that they're terrified to let their kids out there, it's, I think, something we need to look at as a city. But thank you for your ideas. Thanks.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Thank you. Mine's a little more for clarification. I don't remember if I've seen the NTS before. Is the majority of the time that you guys go out, is it due to speeding or reports of speeding in areas?
For NTS, yeah, speeding is the primary one, yeah.
What is the criteria you guys look for then when you guys do the scoring?
For the speed component, we look at 85th percentile speed. We have several tables in our NTS program that, based on the road classification, in terms of how the points are assigned. I don't have the table up in front of me, or in this presentation, but I can definitely, we can get you the program which has all the criteria based out. But they're it's a point-based system on bands of speed, the 85th percentile speed. And we do that also for ADT as well.
Got you. You can save the email. No need
Okay.
for that. Just wanted curiosity on
Sure.
that one. And it sounds like you guys are saying the most common ones you guys use is going to be speed bumps, and then what was the other one?
Speed humps are probably the most prevalent ones we have. I mean, compact roundabouts, probably the next one that we have throughout the city. And then signs, markings, chicanes. Chicanes are relatively new for what we've started looking at. Those are going in on the compact at the same location I talked about earlier at Southwest 340th and 19th Avenue. If you drive out there, you'll see what a chicane looks like. It helps horizontal deflection. In the case of the roundabout, it's help to get it around the roundabout and slow people down, but you could use it on a straightaway as well to get people to kind of, again, slow down, because they're forced to kind of, I would say weave, but move horizontally in a different direction, so they're not just going straight line, down the road.
What do those look like? Just a brief description.
Again, we could use a variety of materials, based on cost. It would, some are cheaper than others, but you can harden them like asphalt and concrete with, concreted, vertical curbing and that sort of thing. You can also use delineators, plastic in nature, that sort of thing. So there's a variety of material types that we could look at.
Okay, so pretty much it's you guys are using physical ways to slow down the vehicles.
Yes.
Do we also ever combine camera systems at the same time?
We don't, I mean, you mean in terms of speed cameras?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, all we have and it's not, we don't run the program, the police are responsible for the actual, enforcement in the cameras. Those are only in school zones, at present nature. Now, the state law has, expanded the program for allowing, automatic enforcement, so, that's something that, again, Rick and I have chatted about briefly, and I think it's a discussion with police that also they have to be behind it, because obviously they'd be, having to keep up with the tickets.
Part of their job. Understood on that one. My last question could be on total scoring. I thought at first so the higher the score is, the more important to get to that location. It has more speeding, more breaking of the rules and stuff. Is that what it means then?
Essentially, yes.
All right, that was it. Thank you.
Council President?
Could you, Mr. Kennedy, go back to the list
Sure.
of places? Thank you. This wasn't in the packet, so it's going to take me a second. Let's see. There was one over off of First on Buena. I don't see it here. I can't see this. So where's the one off of First Avenue South?
Closest one, North Avenue. Where would that be?
don't see one.
There's a pin in the map off of 509 and First Avenue South.
I think that's the Lake Grove one, isn't it?
This one here?
No, it's 509. Good, fine, there you are, right there, that one.
Yeah, so that's, that'd be southwest 30, no, that's not southwest, that'd be southwest 305th, between Second Avenue and Sixth Avenue.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you. That's a hill from First going up, was that 305th or 304th?
Southwest 305th is the street
Well,
of.
that's a hill too. The hill on 304th is very steep, and so when it snows or it gets icy or cold, the only way to get up that hill is to rev up and go. So if there was a speed bump up there, it'd be causing a problem. And 305th also is a hill, but not as steep.
Yes, and so for the speed humps, yeah, we have to look at the grade, and 8% is our max. So if it's beyond that, then we'd have to look at some other solution.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Walsh?
Oh,
Okay, I have a couple questions. You said it takes $15,000 per school basically to do something. I think that's what you said, right? The average cost?
That's our, yeah.
And when you look at these, we're talking 200,000 if it's all 15K. And our budget's 100K, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, the question I have is not the cost, but if we know we have 13 places that have some sort of problem, the real question should be not, we can only afford to do 100,000, how are we going to come up with the extra 100 so they're all safe? Because these are all elementary schools. I mean, that's the way I look at it, and I know that that's a discussion the council has to have.
Yeah. So
And you're only working with what the money you have, but we should really be thinking about, when we're talking about children's safety, what are we gonna cut somewhere else so that we can do this all at once?
We did have extra utility money come in recently.
What's that?
We had extra utility money come in recently to the general fund.
Well, yeah, those are, yeah, well, I don't disagree with you, but that's the real discussion, I
Yeah.
see it.
Agreed, and
And
just a couple
and
points
how-
on that.
And how do we get to that? I mean, the recommendation probably should be, yes, let's do it, but I think the really recommendation should be from this council, okay, now, because we don't make that decision where that money's come, but I think that's really a bigger problem, because it's a risk and we know it's an issue. So I make that comment. The other thing I want to know about is, in the school bus world, all across the country, this is what I did, we put on cameras on school buses and gave tickets to anybody that sped by a school bus, and it's going across the country. Why aren't we talking about putting cameras at school districts and the money goes to this type of safety? I mean, there's got to be, the technology's there. We're not doing it. I know they got one down at Twin Lakes, because I've got a ticket before for doing 24. But anyway, why aren't we having that discussion?
Well, from the school bus perspective.
Well, not school buses, I'm talking, forget about school
Sure.
buses, I'm talking about fixed locations by an elementary school where we have a bunch of kids walking and people speeding.
Yeah, again, we've talked a little internally about, again, in relationship to the new law, state, expansion of the where and when you can use automated enforcement. So it was very restrictive before. Now it's expanded to other areas, types of facilities, like in front of hospitals and parks, those kind of things.
Well, I'm not interested in hospitals and parks, I'm interested in
Well-
elementary schools personally.
But the idea is that we could also expand it beyond just the time frame of the school times, for example. That's one, right? So we, instead of just the half hour, that total during the day, we could be 24/7, for example, is an example of that. So that's a discussion that we need to have with police, for sure.
Good.
Because any new location is gonna be new infrastructure that we have to build, put in.
Well, and then that funds this program. Offenders that are driving whatever it is over the speed limit, they just get an automatic ticket, because that's why we're doing this, safety and these people offending it. So anyway, the other question I kind of think about this, I got an email the other day from one of my neighbors, And in Marine Hills, we have new speed humps, and we have signs that say 15 miles an hour, but the speed limit's 25. So shouldn't we be congruent with, if we're gonna come down the street where the speed bumps are and it's 15, but we're giving the neighborhood 25, shouldn't we change the speed limit so they don't confuse people, or they come zipping down at 25, all of a sudden they go to 15, and then they go up to 25 and to 15, or, we talking about lowering the speed limits around schools?
So those 15 mile, those are advisory speeds, so those are not regulatory,
Well,
so
you
that's
can't go over those bumps at 25, you'll break your,
again, it's a suggestion, advisory in nature with those yellow and black signs. And the posted is 25, so that's regulatory. State law does not allow us to go below 20 in the first place, so we
Okay.
couldn't go to 15.
so we can't go to 15,
Can't go to 15 per state law.
but we could do 20.
Yes, potentially, that is an option that we could, again, discuss. We don't have that many locations in the city, that are 20. But,
Isn't every speed bump 15 in the city?
well, again, posted regulatory is different than the advisory speed. So the black and white, the lowest you can go is 20,
Right, but
so.
again, everywhere in our city now, we have speed bumps, because they're necessary. We have these yellow signs that say 15, and then we're at 25. It just seems like we're kind of out of sync.
So that's intentional.
Intentional?
Yes, so the speed limit is 25, that
I
is
got-
what you can get a ticket for. 15 is basically the speed you shouldn't go or you'll risk damage to your car. So they're considered advisory, they're like, slow down. So we do the same thing on curves, we do the same
Yeah.
thing on yields, there's a number of scenarios where they are, that you should slow down, they're what a conscious driver would do.
Yeah,
But you're not, if you want to take a speed bump at 25 and damage your car,
okay.
I
Okay.
guess you can.
So I personally would like to see this report, what it really takes to clean all this up, because these are around schools. Because it's a 2-year program. You're gonna have this, whatever we authorize, and then you're gonna come back with this list next year with more
Correct.
and more. I mean,
Yeah, so this is very similar to the overlay program, where the needs always exceed the available funding, and we do the maximum we can with the available funding, and what doesn't get done gets carried to the next year.
Right.
So the two programs are modeled exactly the same.
excuse me for continuing, but this program, we all look at it, and it's all school area, element, unless I'm reading it wrong, or you just use that as a place mark, but this is different than I think I've seen in all the years I've been here.
Correct.
It used to be a neighborhood here, a neighborhood there, now we're talking specifically elementary schools,
Correct.
which is a different discussion than slowing down a neighborhood road, in my
So
opinion.
we can certainly do some research and regroup with you on this. I would recommend we start moving with the worst of the worst and
Sure.
make progress, but we can certainly circle back on your question.
Okay. Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So this is called Neighborhood Traffic Safety Program. And we've recently heard from seniors who live on 23rd Avenue South that the street in front of their senior housing, and that whole street is senior housing, is dangerous. They don't feel safe crossing the street. Well, Rick, you were there, and I think you were there, EJ, and I've been there a few times talking with several of those housing units. Is there any way we could do something with the neighborhood traffic safety program to increase their safety? And I know I was told if I found $1 million, we could get a roundabout there. But we just talked about putting a roundabout over by Star Lake, and wasn't told I had to find $1 million for that. So our seniors are as important as our youth. How can we make that safer?
Well, again, I think that would be something outside of the NTS program, so we'd have to have a discussion.
But it's a neighborhood it's a neighborhood.
That's not a neighborhood
It's not
street.
residential street.
23rd is not classified as a residential neighborhood street. So it acts like a neighborhood, to your point, yes, but it's not a neighborhood street. So that would go into the regular CIP program. So we can certainly, when we bring the CIP back, we can certainly have a conversation about adding that,
Alright.
and what that would look like from a project and funding perspective.
Well, I'll still keep looking for $1 million. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Walsh?
Yes, you know, you talk about chicanes. I'd never heard of a chicane before. And I thought it was maybe some chicanery of some type, but anyway. But looking at the, you know, looking online and seeing some examples of chicanes, it's quite interesting. What is the effectiveness of a chicane versus a speed hump?
Well, I don't have the data off the top of my head in terms of what, you know, which one has a higher percentage of speed reduction, that sort of thing. But they are a relatively proven countermeasure per Federal Highway Administration and the ITE, which does a huge, you know, document on traffic calming. So it's one of the documented, you know, countermeasures. Again, there are a lot of tools in the countermeasure toolbox for, you know, for traffic calming. You know, some are very expensive and would probably not fall into this budget, you know, our NTS budget type. But there are other, you know, other things that we can look at for, that are in this realm of budget. Chicanes are one of them. But they essentially slow people down because they do not have to they cannot keep going in a straight line direction.
And typically, and it looks like there's kind of a range of chicanes also, I mean, different
Yes.
ways, but typically, how does the cost compare between a speed hump and a chicane? I mean, if we were to take a look a little more at chicanes, would we be able to, instead of speed humps, are they less expensive? Would we be able to do more places with the same budget? I mean, I'm just taking a look at what we can do to make those dollars stretch the furthest in an effective way.
Yes, I think it hinges a lot on the material type we decide to use, for sure, versus, you know, hardened concrete and that sort of thing versus maybe a little cheaper plastic delineators and markings involved in that. So it really depends on, I think, the material type is a large driver of that. We certainly can do a little more research on all the materials and their, you know, relative costs. You know, and look into that. You know, to make a note, the chicanes that we are putting in at 340th and 19th are literally, to my knowledge, the first ones we've ever put in the city. So this is our first time, and I can get you the numbers on how much those chicanes were bid at for sure. But those were asphalt in nature, so it's maybe a slightly different
Kind of a
material than
push as far as which, you know.
Yeah.
And that's at 340th and 19th?
Southwest. Yeah, right at the intersection, right near Sahali Middle School. So
Okay.
this was an NTS project from 2019. It's gone back that far, but it was two-phase. We had speed humps going in initially, and then we've gotten to the roundabout. So there was actually two components of that project, but we had to spread it out over a couple of years for the cost, obviously, because roundabout's a little bit more expensive than our average, you know, NTS project.
No, okay, all right, thank you.
And I have one more last question.
Yep.
We've never seen so many elementary schools at one time, and maybe it's because we're doing the research, but is this really a cultural change where all the parents are afraid to let their kids walk to school and they're driving them? I mean, in my neighborhood school right next to my house, I mean, there's lines of cars that were never there 8 years ago or 10 years ago. Is that what's causing this issue, of parents dropping their kids off at school instead of letting them walk?
You know, in
Because
terms of
these
this list,
neighborhoods have
some
been
of these-
established forever.
Well, again, like I mentioned in my previously, some of these on this list were ones that the city initiated, so it had nothing to do with the public's concern per se. Not to say that they don't agree with the city's assessment that this was a location of concern or of interest. But we haven't gotten to that stage of chatting with them. But some of these were ones that we identified just out of, you know, crash history, the nature of the road, that sort of thing. You know, pointing out another part of this is that, you know, sidewalk or lack thereof, you know, is one of the components that has changed in our NTS policy since 2022. So the uptick in the locations that have passed are partially because of that extra half point that we give to locations that do not have sidewalk on either side. Or a half point for half the side and a whole point, you get a whole point for if the street has sidewalks on neither side. So that has, you know, increased some of the locations, and it's a fair one, because obviously if we're talking schools and people are, you know, children are walking without sidewalks, they're walking in the road for the most part, so, yeah.
I have one more question.
Yes, Councilmember Honda?
On the Woodmont school attendance area, they initiated, the traffic study request received was 10/12/2023. And they've had their public meeting. They haven't had balloting, and they have not had the city-initiated study. So is that on the list to do, or, they've been on this list for quite a while?
Yeah, so that one, we had, completed the public meeting and are in the process of getting the ballots out, and then this meeting, presentation was requested prior to the ballots getting out.
Okay.
The column about the city initiative study, that's just identifying whether we started, we initiated the
okay.
study to the NTS, the actual data collection, or not. That's all that column indicates. So we've conducted the NTS, traffic study. We've done the public meeting on that location, and we're in the process of getting the ballots out. Now, that location, I will mention, that one's an interesting one, because you have somewhat of a grade there, and there's also, potentially a new alignment for a trail shared pathway that is going to hopefully go in the future. It's still in the initial design stages, I believe, at this point. But, so that's part of the discussion we want to include with engineering on what could that look like in the future if this project gets built from an engineering side, if we can handle the NTS component as well. So there's a couple parts of that make that one like a little bit of a unique location, but the grade is the biggest concern when it comes to, having like a speed hump. That would be possibly a problematic one.
The trail, which I love trails, I think we could use as many as we can get in the city, but I mean, realistically, that's years away from ever existing. And if it's needed now, if this program is needed now to address issues there, it should be done now instead of waiting for a trail that could be years away, in my opinion.
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Walsh, would you like to make a motion?
Certainly. I move to forward the proposed option 1 to the October 21, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you. Now we're going to move to item D, WashDOT Fiber Interagency Agreement Amendment Number 1.
Okay, let's see. Well, good evening, as if you haven't heard enough from me already. So, the policy question is, should the council authorize extension of our existing interagency agreement with WashDOT regarding fiber optic cable that allows us to share traffic information between the city and WashDOT? So, actually, quite a few years ago, the city and the state executed an agreement to share real-time traffic information, and they funded construction of a fiber optic cable to connect their system on I-5 to our traffic control system in City Hall. And it is time now to update that agreement. Per the terms of the agreement, it's to be extended every 5 years, and so this would take that out to 2030. And so with that, and I should mention, there's no cost to this. It's all installed, and we're jointly responsible for the maintenance of that cable. So, options considered is 1, to approve the proposed interagency agreement amendment, or 2, do not approve it and provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation is option 1.
Okay.
Any questions?
I see no questions. Do you have a motion, Mr. Tran?
Mr. Chair, I move to forward the proposed interagency agreement amendment to the October 21st, 2025 consent agenda for approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Perez.
I love your sign there, Rick.
Thank you. Yeah, that's actually outside of Greensboro, North Carolina.
How many accidents do we have?
I don't know. I met my counterpart at Greensboro many years ago, and pretty sharp guy, but that's North Carolina DOT. They overdo everything. Right.
Okay, we're gonna move to item E, which is ordinance Title 18, Sewer Connection Code Amendment. Mr. Lewis.
All right. Good evening, Committee Chair Dovey, Council President Kochmar, and all council members present. This and the next agenda item are ordinances amending Federal Way Revised Code Titles 18 and 19, are subdivision and zoning codes, to establish clear and objective code requirements on which properties must connect to the sanitary sewer system. These Title 18 and 19 ordinances are connected. In fact, the Title 18 ordinance refers to several waivers and provisions of Title 19, so I'm going to address the key aspects of both ordinances with the first presentation. The policy question is, should City Council amend Federal Way Revised Code Title 18 to determine which properties must connect to the sanitary sewer system? And the purpose is to establish clear and objective sewer connection requirements, consistency with state law and regional and local planning policies, to implement a 2024 comprehensive plan action that specifically called for the adoption of a clear and objective sewer connection code amendment, and to help curb the proliferation of septic in the city, to help protect local water bodies and reduce barriers to infill development. Just a few background slides. Federal Way is mostly served by Lake Haven Sewer District, and we do have a couple staff from Lake Haven here tonight if there were questions specific to Lake Haven. There is just a very small area in the farthest north reaches of the city served by Midway Sewer, just a small handful of connections served by Midway. And the permitting authority for septic in Federal Way is Public Health of Seattle and King County. These are just some relevant sewer system maps. The map on the left showing the green areas, that represents active sewer connections, and all the white areas are areas that do not have sewer connections. Some of those are just undeveloped areas, and some of those are very much developed, and most of those are on septic. And then the map on the right shows sewer mains in the city. So kind of the least sewered areas are much of Marine Hills, areas to the north of Mirror Lake, South Federal Way, and several pockets in Northwest Federal Way and along the immediate shoreline. Here's a map on the right showing properties in Federal Way that are currently on septic and by age of septic system. So the reddish is before 1989, all the way up to bluest being the most recent, 2020 to 2022. The areas with the highest concentration of septic in the city corresponds to the unsewered areas from the previous maps. There are 3,450 septic systems in Federal Way. That actually makes us the #1 city in the county in terms of the number of septic systems. So we, as far as incorporated cities, we have more properties on septic than any other city in King County of all 39 cities. Almost 3/4 of those septic systems are over 30 years old, and the typical age of septic failure is between 30 and 50 years. So a lot of those septic systems in the city are coming up kind of to their end of life. And most of the areas that are on septic in the city were developed before the city's incorporation in 1990. This code amendment does not solve the core issue that's represented on this map, just as far as the proliferation of septic in the city, but it is a starting point to ensure that our code doesn't add to the proliferation of septic with new development, while also providing clarity to staff in reviewing permits. Before I go to the next slide, so during the course of this code amendment, discussions internally, there have been some questions raised about how to address the amount of area of the city that's unsewered and just the sheer number of properties that are on septic. So just a brief aside from the ordinance, since it was requested to provide this information even though it doesn't directly relate to the ordinance. Questions have been raised about how to sewer some of these unsewered areas from the perspective of getting existing properties that are served by septic connected to sewer, as well as positioning areas that are not served by sewer to maximize their development and redevelopment potential for housing. And an important starting point for that discussion is cost. Lake Haven has graciously provided some very ballpark rough estimates for cost per square foot of sewer expansion in Federal Way. And their estimates put it in the range of, for publicly funded gravity sewer expansion, $800 to $1,000 per linear foot, which over a mile, that would be about $4 to $5 million per mile. And Lake Haven could speak more if there's specific questions to this kind of side topic from the rest of the ordinance. If a pilot project opportunity presented itself in the future, some areas that would be worth exploring are those probably with a lot of larger and vacant or underutilized parcels, those that are unencumbered with a lot of environmental critical areas like wetlands, streams, as well as areas that have a lot of properties on septic. So really just to visualize what a 1 mile sewer expansion would be, an area with features that might be familiar to some. I just picked this random area to the west of the Twin Lakes Park and Ride. So you have the Twin Lakes Park and Ride here, just for scale. There's a Puget Sound Energy substation down here. The Light of Christ Church is on this property. So the area in purple is approximately 1 mile. Just to visualize what a mile gets you, what $4 to $5 million gets you for a publicly funded sewer expansion. And based on Lake Haven, and they can speak more to this if there's any questions, privately funded sewer expansion could be significantly less, as low as $300 per square feet. $300 per linear feet. So this hypothetical visualization, this is about a 1,700-foot stretch of 21st Avenue, and then this loop is about 3,500 feet. So again, a little aside from the ordinance, but it was requested that I provide this just to visualize that mile area.
Can I ask you a question, and sorry to interrupt you, but Light of Christ is right there on the corner, right? No.
I believe the actual church is over here, and then this is a community garden.
Yeah, so that piece of property currently is for sale,
Sold.
and it's not on sewer. And if they sell that property to a developer, that developer will be responsible to put it on sewer, correct? And so would they have to go, the purple up here on Southwest 341st, go all the way down there to connect to that corner?
Are you talking about?
I'm just-
right now.
Right now, today. and
So
today's work.
that gets into the actual code amendment, which is to require sewer connection for development within 200 feet of
Yeah,
a
but I guess my
sewer.
question is, in today's world, it's not on sewer, it's septic there. The code amendment would, in order to make that property developable with this new code amendment, whoever buys it would need to run sewer down to get there. Is that correct?
Correct, if it was within the distance requirements established in the
Well,
ordinance.
which your graph looks like it is. I mean, your picture says they would have to,
Yeah, if we're talking about existing sewer, if this was
because
within
they can't
200
connect,
feet.
they could connect to where that red dot is from there and come down?
Yes, and that's if they don't meet some of the exceptions and waivers that we'll get to with the remaining
Okay.
slides.
I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
So back to the ordinance, the city code does little, if anything, to deter new development from being served by septic, and thus growing the number of properties in the city that are still on septic. The only apparent requirement in our entire city code, zoning code, subdivision code, and other titles of Federal Way Revised Code is in our subdivision code, which says sewer connection is required where feasible. And that is subjective language that's difficult, if not impossible, to enforce. So it amounts to us basically not having a sewer connection requirement, which is unusual since most cities, in fact, more than 80% of cities have some clear and objective minimum sewer connection requirement established in their codes. So this ordinance attempts to get us there. So with that context, these are key details of the proposed code amendment. The first is for land divisions, where a land division, that could include a short plat, a long plat, unit lot subdivision, or binding site plan. For land divisions, connection would be required if sewer is available within 200 feet of the subject property. And that would be measured from the nearest public sewer connection to any point of the subject property, whether it's one corner, the middle of the property, any point of the subject property. And that same distance requirement would apply to developments with sanitation facilities on existing lots. So connection required if sewer is available within 200 feet of the subject property. And that puts us perfectly in line with what the county's standard is, as well as roughly the average of most cities that have established a distance-based connection requirement. It's about 200 feet, both in terms of the county and cities that have adopted that. The next key detail is for existing developments that are already on septic. Connection would be required when septic fails and if sewer is already available in the right-of-way adjacent to the property. So if the septic fails a county inspection and sewer is already there, that's when connection would be required. If it's not already adjacent to the property in the right-of-way, that this wouldn't apply. And just for a ballpark, the question was posed to King County, like how many very roughly failed sewer inspections do we see in the city per year? And their rough estimate, without really digging into a lot of the raw data, they estimated about 10 to 15 per year. There's several.
And of those 10 to 15, those are near sewer.
Even
don't
that
know.
level of detail
Okay.
wasn't explored. It was just,
Okay.
what are we looking at citywide? So probably only a small fraction of those would be on adjacent to right-of-ways that already have sewer.
Okay.
Several exceptions and waivers. So for the land division scenario, if you have a large property and they're subdividing and selling off the rest of their land, and if there's an existing house that's already on septic, they could remain on septic for just that house that's already served by septic. There'd be an exception and waiver for a new development utilizing existing septic that already has the capacity to serve that new development. So an example would be a single-family house that has a large septic system that could accommodate another dwelling unit if they want to do an ADU. If that existing septic system can accommodate that ADU and still meet the county's septic requirements, that would be allowed as well. Properties that cannot be sewered wouldn't have to connect, and that'd be as determined by the sewer utility, as well as properties for which sewer cannot be served over the right-of-way, and where a sewer easement cannot be obtained across adjacent properties due to adjacent property owner denying the easement. So if that 200 feet, you can't connect to sewer in the right-of-way, and it requires going across an adjacent private property, if for any reason that property owner who wants to develop their property can't get an easement from the adjacent property, that would be a waiver from the connection requirement. Just a couple more highlights. The ordinance proposes this to go into effect January 1st, 2027 to provide predictability for things in the pipeline. And it also includes a state-required appeals section specifically for the scenario when sewer connection would be required based on the failed septic inspection. The state has a specific requirement that cities adopt this appeals option when they're required to connect to sewer after a septic failure. This went to a public hearing on September 17th and hopefully is on track for adoption by November 5th. There was one public comment that's in your packets. It was a letter of support from the Master Builders Association of King and Snohomish counties. And the staff report shows how the amendment meets all of the criteria for code amendments. And policy options are to adopt the proposed ordinance or not adopt the proposed ordinance and provide direction to staff. And Planning Commission recommended approval, and the mayor's recommendation is to approve. Are there any questions before we go on to the Title 19 ordinance?
Councilmember Honda.
Oh, thank you. So I've had a gentleman talk to me recently, well, for the last couple of years about sewer and septic. He lives off of First Avenue going down the hill to Redondo. And 2 years ago, his septic system failed and he wanted to connect to sewer, was told it wasn't possible, and he has spent over $40,000 to put in a new septic system. So if we were to require this, could people like that who have recently spent all this money to update their septic system because they had no choice, could they be exempt from something like this?
So there's probably a few ways. One is if that property, if it was, their septic failed, if that property wasn't already, if there wasn't sewer already adjacent in the adjacent right-of-way, then they wouldn't have to connect. If it was just because it's an already developed property and they have a failed septic system, they wouldn't have to connect if there's not already sewer in the right-of-way adjacent to that property. So that's kind of, would be question number one for them. It's also important to know that the city is not the ultimate decision maker as far as approving or not approving the septic permit. So that would be King County ultimately. And then if not that scenario, if there was sewer available in the right of way, there is that state required appeals provision that we're adopting. And then those various other exceptions and waivers that might be applicable.
And my other question is, I was recently in a neighborhood this weekend, and it's a fairly new neighborhood in South Federal Way, and they're all septic. The houses are less than 5 years old. So, would there be like an age of a property that we would say you're exempt if, if sewer, if it was possible to
So I
connect to
think
sewer?
maybe I can help clarify here. So there's only a few situations that would even trigger a requirement to connect to sewer. The first one is your septic fails,
Right.
right? And so in the case of a 5-year-old development with 5-year-old septic systems, that's pretty unlikely to happen for, 30-plus years at this point. The only other two are building a new house on an existing lot, and the third one would be subdividing your property in some way.
Oh, okay.
So if you're not subdividing, you're not building a new house, and your septic doesn't fail, this isn't going to trigger you to do anything if you're
Okay.
on septic.
Thank you.
Okay,
So-
Councilmember Daniel first, then
Okay, sure.
Council President.
A quick question on that one. That is only they're only responsible if they are within 200 feet of a connection point, right?
For the new development scenario.
Yeah, even for the forced connections and all that stuff, everything would have to be within 200 feet of a current connection point, correct?
So if the trigger is coming from a land subdivision, yes, there's you have to be within 200 feet. If the trigger is coming from a new house that's being built on an existing lot, yes, it's within 200 feet. If your septic fails, it's whether or not it's directly adjacent, i.e. right next to it.
Okay, got
Yeah.
it. I just want to verify on that one. Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for some of the exemptions. I had a conversation with you guys on this one. I thank the chair for bringing this up, because I think this is an actual big deal for the city. We passed quite a bit of housing requirements or allowing people to build out, but it does limit a lot of our city residents. Could you go back to the cost that you guys had talked to Lake Haven about? So right here, so you're saying it's between 800 and 1,000 per linear foot, but then you also mentioned $300. What was that kind of scenario, or is that just oops?
I'm going to let Brian Asbury from Lake Haven address that, some of the specific numbers, since he's the expert on those.
Appreciate it.
I don't know about expert. I'm Brian Asbury, and Development Engineering Supervisor at Lake Haven Water and Sewer. I spoke with some of our CIP engineers and to obtain that about 800 to 1,000. Evan's map does a real good job right here. If you know where, everybody knows where this is, heavily paved roads, heavily traveled roads, that's going to drive the cost up.
Gotcha.
It's going to require probably full width overlays. That's not an unusual requirement at all. Every city, every county pretty much has the same thing, so it's not like Federal Way's out on the island there. Where the private can get down as low as 300, a lot of that times that's on plat development. You're developing in the proverbial cow pasture. There's no roads there. If it were private that were developing and had a lot of street, asphalt restoration, excavation and restoration, probably closer to $500-600 a foot at that point in time. It's the prevailing wage and bidding processes stuff that tends to drive that public cost up.
Gotcha. And then what are connection fees? Like, what does it cost? Like, we had talked about if someone has a failure, but they have it right out in the street, they're now forced to connect. I know we talked about if they sell it, they might be required to connect. So what is the actual connection fee going to be roughly? I'm not asking for hard
Sure,
numbers.
right. Currently, right now, using 2025 schedule, Lake Haven's capital facilities charges, system capacity fees, general facility fees, those are also known as, and a sewer permit, you're looking in the area about $7,000 just for the permit, plus paying a contractor to do that, it's probably 25,000 from the curb to the house to get hooked up. So you're in that $35,000 range. Then there's the frontage. How much did it cost per foot? And each side of the street would pay half of that if you were building it down a straight street.
Got you. So these numbers right here, for this moment in time, are probably good enough for people to use as estimates to get an understanding of what it's going to cost?
Like I said, Evans got up there, these are like public works bid, so it's gonna be higher if a private developer would do it. Private developer isn't just gonna come probably out of the goodness of his heart and sewer up 21st Avenue there.
He's going to try the closest connected possible.
Probably, yeah.
Understood on that one. Let me see, got that one. I was going to ask if you guys had done a study, but it looks like you guys have already pulled some information. I'm going to request that you guys send me the slide deck because it has information I want to dig into a little bit deeper. And then has when you guys are saying that private, are you guys talking about if you work with the general contractor or if you work with the city? I'm just trying to make sure I understood that correctly on that scenario.
Public versus private, you're kind of asking me to delineate there a little
Yes,
bit.
please.
Public, we got. Private would just be a private developer. Somebody had mentioned next to the Light of Christ Church there, and it's for sale. That would be that type of private development where they would take it. Their sewer costs would probably be a lot lower than that figure because it's proverbial cow pasture. They're going to build the roads, but they'll do that after they put the sewer in.
Okay, and then I'm going to ask you a question. Does it make logical sense in your mind in this field to actually maybe lay pipes in certain roads that have the best ability to be expanded for this increased housing and then have them connect later on? Does it make more sense, since the dollar today is cheaper than the dollar tomorrow, to actually build out infrastructure?
In a general concept, yes. And we actually have been trying to do that pretty much forever. This is a little bit with the city, and sewers weren't really desired at one point in time, 60s, 70s, 80s. It was a way to manage growth, would be one way of saying it. This is 2025, and so it definitely makes sense to get the pipes in the ground before the roads go in. Plats are a great example. That's the easy way to do it, or a shopping center that's on just dirt. It's much more difficult when the roads are already developed and the neighborhoods are already developed.
Gotcha.
It's not just the asphalt restoration. There's other utilities in there that cause conflicts, plus the traffic control. Just keeps driving the cost up.
Gotcha. And I assume you guys can't do micro trenching either.
Well, no, because actually, I think the wave is trending towards more and more trenchless type technology. It doesn't lend itself to gravity sewer as much. They have to maintain that line of grade and slope. Low pressure sewer force mains, water can have a little bit of wave to it underground. It doesn't matter. But no, there's
Some future possibilities?
yes.
All right. I thank you for your time.
Council President?
Hi, Brian. Stay there. Hi, John.
Hello.
Wait, those guys I worked with for 33 years, so they've been around a while. So do we still do a utility local improvement district, or ULID?
We still have the process. We haven't had a successful ULID petition since the mid-1980s. It's hard to get a neighborhood together and enough property owners
Yeah.
to agree to the costs that,
A lot of our areas that are not sewered are on septic are low-income areas. And we, at one point, many, many years ago, we were able to get a grant for low-income area. And the people there had to vote on it, and they voted it down. But are those kinds of grants, do you know if they're still available?
I might have our general manager speak to that. He's much more versed in the grants.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to I'm John Bowman, I'm General Manager for Lake Haven Water and Sewer District. I'm actually going tomorrow to a conference in Wenatchee for funding for utilities. But right now, there is not very much for this city area, just because of the way they look at low income, is they look at the city as a whole, not neighborhood by neighborhood on some of the programs that I'm aware of. And so that's made it difficult to try to
Okay, when you're
get
there,
dollars for a
John,
specific neighborhood.
I actually met Christine Gregoire a while ago. they're talking about everything from Canada to the Oregon border about how to redevelop properties, especially around empty shopping malls. And is there any way you can, she had said that they had provided money in the Department of Commerce for something like this, but nobody ever requested it. So could you ask if there's anything through the Department of Commerce still available?
I can do that if I'm finding the right people at the conference, but yes. And the city and Lake Haven had worked together for a successful grant for community economic development in the downtown core, and we put in a section of a large sewer trunk with that money that we both worked with the legislature and obtained. And we still have a section of that to go, and I'd love to work with the city.
Sure, okay, and
on
also,
that,
you know, it's always driven me crazy, you know, when we rip up the roads and we're putting stuff in and we don't put the sewers in at the same time. It just seems to me like Councilmember McDaniel was saying, put the pipes in. And
Well, most new roads are going in with sewer. I think the code is pretty much driving the developments to put, you know, the modern utilities in when they're developing. So the new roads as they're going in, they're generally getting
Okay. Oh, thank you.
sewers. It's in these pockets that, you know, the roads are in now, the homes are in, there's all the private property is really developed up to the edge of the rights of way, and you have to come in and tear all that stuff out and
Okay.
relay that brings these costs up quite a
so
bit.
one other question that we were talking about here a minute ago was about subdividing your property if you're on septic and the septic fails. Excuse me. If you want to subdivide your property and you're on septic, but the septic hasn't failed, but there's enough reserve space for, can you subdivide and still build a detached ADU or?
I might have to turn back to what the city code
that one.
is saying, but it sounds like, yes, if you're subdividing, then you do have to look to see whether you're close enough to the sewers to.
No sewers, just septic.
So a few different aspects to that. So if you're subdividing your property and that subject property that's being subdivided is within 200 feet of a
Not within,
sanitary.
nowhere near sewers.
Okay,
It's on
so
septic.
if it's not near sewer, then this code amendment would not require a connection, if it's more than 200 feet from
Okay,
from
so the
sewer.
question then really is, does the county allow you to subdivide and still have a sewer?
We have active short plats right now with, that are proposed on septic, because like one off the top of my head is like 800 feet from the nearest sewer line. And the county is
Thank you.
allowing that.
So John, when you go to talk tomorrow, will you please tell the legislature that since they've told us that we have to have all this infill, and we have to have, you know, smaller houses on smaller lots, how the heck are we going to do it without sewers? And maybe they need to provide that little item in their budget.
Well, as you know, council member, I mean, if you want to talk about, you know, getting sewers in neighborhoods, you can really fill the house, because there's strong opinions both ways.
Yeah,
But, yeah, I will bring this up.
thanks. Yeah, thank you.
So I have a question. Let me ask my question on this map here. You have sewer to where the church is on this particular property, and I don't know who I'm asking.
Oh, okay.
But, you know, you have your purple line that comes down 21st and goes around the neighborhood. But why wouldn't you just take it off of the church and run it through that green area that's all undeveloped, and then come into these houses there that apparently have more ground? Wouldn't it be a lot less expensive?
So I'll add further disclaimer to this map. There
I mean,
wasn't a whole, the primary purpose was to, let's find an unsewered area and a general area that meets
Yeah.
those three criteria that equals a mile.
Okay,
So
but-
that was the number one goal
but-
with that.
But you could sewer that area if you worked with whoever bought that land and pull the sewer off that's unsewered and do it differently than running down the roads, correct?
Conceivably, there's definitely other ways to expand sewer in this area.
Yeah, which would be
than
less
what's shown here.
expensive, which would still,
There could be capacity issues on the existing pipe.
okay. Perfect. Thank you. Mr. McDaniel, you have another question?
Two follow-ups. So I just want to make sure I understand it. So if I'm using the 800 as a rough estimate, if someone's building a new house, the cost for them to bring sewer to their house is gonna be $160,000 to drop pipe, and then an additional $30,000 to connect, being about a $200,000 increased cost, correct?
If you're if you're talking about a private
Yes, I'm just,
sewer connection, then
I'm going
then
with
it
the
goes back to
smallest
pri-
single
private,
possible.
the lower cost estimate, because it's no longer a publicly funded sewer expansion.
I tried to keep with that math real quick, but I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think
I'm
you're
just
about,
throwing
you're in the
some
ballpark.
basics. Okay.
And that amount, when you build it, and presuming we're talking about a straight street with houses down both sides of the road.
Yeah.
So when you built that amount and you spent that amount, in theory, half of it could get paid for by the neighbors across the street if they hooked up through a variety of mechanisms. They agreed to split the cost with you up front, or a latecomer type of arrangement.
Gotcha. But I always go with worst case scenario. Worst case scenario, it's an additional 190,000-ish. Okay. And then, does the city have, I'm gonna ask the city question, last one. Does the city have any concerns that this may push back development, or do you think this will actually increase development?
I would guess it's more the code amendment, not speaking to this. This
Yeah.
was because it was requested, it's related to the topic, but the code amendment itself, I think, is probably more conducive to development. I mean, there was a letter of support from Master Builders Association. It's worth noting that right now, like, for example, with the middle housing code amendment that just passed, septic can only serve 2 dwelling units, or if there's a property that remains on septic, it would only allow 2 middle housing units. So there's a cap on the number of middle housing units with that code amendment for properties served by septic. Septic takes up a lot of land on a property, and so because it creates a barrier to infill development. So I think, but again, the code amendment is. It's not getting at the core issue here, but I think overall it's going to probably be more conducive to getting more properties incrementally connected to sewer.
Yeah. No, the biggest cost in my mind, the only pushback on it is going to be the 200 feet of pipe. The connection fees are the same as putting in a septic, so it's like it's a wash on that one with a better scenario long-term for everybody. It's just, I just wanted to know what you guys' thoughts were on the actual cost for development. A big development, not a big deal. Little guys trying to do something is a different story, though. Thank you for your time.
Well, I was just going to tell John, is it the Water Sewer Association that you're going to be at tomorrow?
No, it's over in Wenatchee, the IACC.
Okay,
It's,
thank you.
infrastructure.
I was just going to say, the Water Sewer Association is the one that should be lobbying on your behalf at the legislature to solve this issue. Thanks.
Other questions? Do I have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the first reading on October 21st, 2025.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Evan. Now we'll go to the next one, which is,
This is the Title 19 ordinance on the same topic.
got it.
Policy questions to City Council, amend Federal Way Revised Code Title 19 to determine which properties must connect to the sanitary sewer system. The same purpose, so I won't read this again, the same purpose as the Title 18 ordinance, and the background information is all the same. The specific highlights are the same, minus the one highlights that was specific to land divisions. So the Title 19 ordinance has the provisions related to the connection requirement for development that with sanitation facilities on existing lots required to connect if sewers within 200 feet of the subject property, as well as the failed septic scenario that we talked about. And the same exceptions and waivers, and the same effective date and state required appeal section that's already been presented. The adoption process is the same public comment, and the same review criteria. And the policy options are to adopt or to not adopt, and the recommendation is from the planning commission is approval and the mayor is approval.
Seeing no questions, do I have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the first reading on October 21, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. And we'll now move to item G, electrified fence code amendments.
Discussion's getting more electrifying.
Yes.
It's moved uphill from the crap.
Good evening, Committee Chair Dovey, Council President Kochmar, and committee members. I'm here tonight to provide you with code amendment changes related to electrified fences. And that. Okay. So the policy question tonight is, should the City Council adopt the proposed text amendments related to electrified fences? A little background for you. In late 2023 into early 2024, the City of Federal Way was approached by a local business operating here in the metropolitan area, and they asked us to amend our code amendment to electrified fences. They were citing increased theft and trespassing for local businesses, and they emphasized that it would provide local citizens modern security to protect their businesses here in the city. So the city staff began to evaluate our current code. So right now, the proposed amendments in front of you are simplified. The small change that we are making to section 19, 125, 160 for structures and improvements adds that red line that you see right there. So fences and railings not over 6 feet in height and electrified fences not over 10 feet in height will be allowed within the required yard setbacks, but they still have to follow the regulations for perimeter fencing. And then we're adding a definition in our definition section for an electrified fence because we did not have one and now we do. So moving forward, we held a public hearing on September 3rd. Tonight is LUTC. Moving forward, we will have first reading at City Council on October 21st, and second reading will be November 5th. The criteria to do code amendment changes for adoption, the proposed amendment is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The proposed amendment bears substantial relation to public health, safety, and welfare, and the proposed amendment is in the best interest of the city. Your action items options moving forward are approve the proposal by adopting the ordinance as is, modify and approve the proposal, or do not approve and provide direction to city staff. The Planning Commission did an approval back in September, and the mayor's recommendation is option 1, approval. Do you have any questions?
So I do have one question. This has been a long time since we had this presentation. And I thought part of it, the discussion was the distance between the two fences. Isn't it required to have two fences?
Yes.
And part of the argument or the request was to bring that size fence 1 to fence 2 closer together. Have we done that?
No, I believe we didn't touch that section of the electrified. Apologies. So that's what this does. Oh, I'm sorry.
So, that's what this does.
Sorry.
So what the general setback height requirement is 6 feet.
Right.
And what we heard from the electric fence provider is that the electric fence wants to be 10 feet tall. So if you have a 10-foot tall electric fence, it has to be outside of the setback area, which creates a weird space in between the perimeter fence and the electric fence. And so by changing the code to read the way it does, you can skinny them up to remove that kind of dead zone in between the two fences.
Okay, so before there was a 6-foot dead zone or whatever it was, and now we're saying they're
6 inches.
6 inches? I mean, we don't have a dead zone anymore, so we're not
Correct.
taking the person's property if they decide they want, not that we're taking it, but they still have access to their property.
Yes, sir.
Okay. How come it didn't say that? Or maybe I didn't read that very well.
Small print.
Small print, okay.
Yeah, it just says that previously, you could not have a 10-foot electrified fence in the setback.
Correct, and now you could.
Now you
put 'em-
can't.
You could put them 2 inches apart or 6 inches apart or whatever
Correct.
you want to pay for.
You could always have your 6-foot normal fence in the setback. The
Right.
problem was the electric fence couldn't also be in the setback. So now it can also be in the setback together with its friend.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Walsh?
Is there a height that the electrified fence needs to be off the ground or?
No more than, off the ground? I'm not sure about off the ground, but it can't be taller than 10 feet.
All right,
I think that off the ground is more with the manufacturer installation.
okay, so it can be just a regular height then, okay.
Okay.
All right, just wanted to make sure. I mean, one of my learning experiences as a youth in farm country was encounters with electric fences, and I don't want to deprive city kids of that same encounter, you know? So.
Yeah, but those were only 3 strands. Okay, Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. How many fences in Federal Way are currently electrified? If
One
any?
to my knowledge.
One? Which was a business that brought this to us?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. How many applications have we had that we've denied, do you know? If we've denied any?
None that I am aware of.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilmember Walsh, did you have a question? Would you like to make a motion? Yeah, please.
Yeah. I move to forward the proposed ordinance to first reading on October 21, 2025.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move to item H, Public Utility Code Amendment. You guys got nice presentations here. They're blue, easy to read. You guys must have been to a graphics class recently. You got a good template. I like it. I can read it, so keep it up. Thank you.
Good evening, Chair Dovey, Council Committee members and council members. I'm Stacy Welsh, Principal Planner, and I'm here to present the Public Utility Code Amendment. The policy question is, should the council adopt the proposed text amendments to Title 19 related to public utilities? So a bit of background on this. There's downtown redevelopment projects, including the Sound Transit Light Rail and the City Center Access Project. And part of these projects involve the relocation of BPA towers near the Commons. We've all driven by this one a time or two. This area of the city is zoned City Center Core, and that is where the height of public utilities is limited to 60 feet by code. Those towers are a bit taller than that. So this proposal is to amend the code to remove the height restriction for the public utilities use in the City Center Core zone. Simply taking that height limitation from 60 feet to none in the chart. As you've seen a couple times tonight, when we adopt code, we do a SEPA determination, and up next on October 21st is a public hearing and first reading before the council, and then November 5th, second reading. You've also seen these a couple times tonight. These are the proposed criteria, these are the criteria. Anytime we touch the zoning code, look to do an amendment, we have to verify and have done so that they are consistent with the comprehensive plan, that they bear a substantial relationship to the public health, safety, or welfare, and that they are in the best interest of the residents of the city. Policy options are adopt the proposed ordinance for code amendments or do not provide direction to staff. Mayor's recommendation is option 1. Happy to answer any questions.
Well, it doesn't look like see any questions. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to forward the proposed ordinance to the first reading on October 21st, 2025.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
More like that.
Yeah, well, now we're going to go to item I, Race and Faith Restrictive Property Covenants. Mr. Niven. Looks like you're going to be on here a few times.
Yeah, I'm going to get comfortable.
You get the trifecta.
Good evening, Committee Chair Dovey, committee members Tran and Walsh, Council President Kochmar, and council members. Keith Niven, Community Development Director. Tonight, we're going to talk about race and faith restrictive property covenants. And the policy question in front of the city council is, should the city council provide notice to property owners regarding historic race-related subdivision covenants? So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of the context here. So over the past couple of years, when we were updating our comprehensive plan and we started talking about housing, one of the things that we were asked to address specifically was, were there any policies in place that created housing disparities within the community? And as we dug into this, what we realized is there were some covenants on properties that were recorded a long time before Federal Way ever became a city, back when we were in unincorporated King County. And a number of these covenants limited the future owners to a particular race, and more specifically precluded other potential owners from living in those homes. Based on kind of the information we have, we believe there's 288 properties located in the current bounds of Federal Way. And what we're talking about tonight is whether we should provide the property owners notification of the covenant. You know, the covenants are basically illegal at this point, but a lot of property owners probably don't know that they exist. Not a lot of people read their complete title documents when they buy their house. I know I didn't. And so there's really three choices for you guys to consider this evening. One is to simply provide 288 notices out that says, hey, our research indicates that you may have a covenant on your property that may read a certain way, and that there's certain ways that you can get rid of that covenant. And some of that deals with King County, which is under number 2, and kind of the ultimate way is to go to Superior Court. Obviously, that's more work. And I think what we're here to talk about tonight is how far you want city staff to go with this. Kind of the light option, well, the lightest option is number 3, we don't do anything. The second lightest option is number 1, which is to send a letter out and just make sure people understand it's there. And then it's up to them to decide whether they want to do anything about it or not. And then option 2 would be to potentially give them some additional resources to get rid of the covenant, which would be a lot more work for law, not me. So with that, the recommendation from the mayor is option 1, to go ahead and send out the notice. And if there are any questions, I'm here for that.
Yes, Councilmember Tran.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm just curious. So let's say if the HOA decided not to do anything about it, can the city take any further action against the HOA?
No.
No? Even though the language is illegal?
Yeah, so the way the state law works is any of these covenants, they're already legally void. They're just illegal per se. And that's going to be the case no matter whether they're there on the documents or not. This is just a way of, these methods are ways of property owners just removing them from their chain of title, basically, or removing the covenant from their property. But they're already illegal, they're unenforceable, there's nothing that the HOA can do to enforce those things. And there's no mechanism for the city to force a property owner to remove it from their property record.
Thank you.
Councilmember McDaniel?
If you mind, let Walsh go first.
Yeah,
Okay, Councilmember Walsh?
okay. With this, if, say, an HOA or a property owner does it and they take it to the county to do it, is the county charging fees in order to make that change?
The county will charge a recording fee to record, I think it's a replacement covenant, isn't it, Ken?
Yeah, it's a covenant modification document, essentially. So yeah, there may be some minimal recording fees.
I wonder if we can petition the county to waive those fees if they'd be charging a fee for that.
I'm trying to confirm whether in fact there's a fee associated or not, because I suspect this may be an automatic waiver situation, but I'm currently Googling the answer.
And, hey, forget Google, it's time for AI, so. Hey, while he's looking that up, what is the most recent of those covenants? Do they go clear back to the 40s, or are they more recent than that?
60s.
I think the most recent ones were, as Councilmember McDaniel said, in the 60s. Most of them date back to like the 30s and 40s, but like they kind of spilled over into at least onesie twosies in maybe the 60s.
Oh.
Yeah,
There is no recording charge.
Okay, all right.
Well, that's good.
that makes it easy.
It seems then to me as though if the city sent out a notice and then with explicit procedure for them having it removed, so it didn't impact, I mean, so we don't need to do number 2 and burden our legal department if there's already explicit instructions on how to do that in that initial letter.
I think we can do our best to try and describe it to Joe homeowner, so that hopefully, I don't want to get 288 phone calls about this.
No.
So I think if ultimately the council wants us to proceed with taking some action, we'll try and make it as clear as possible so that people can figure out how to get to the goal line.
Yeah, or even have a link to a website with specific instructions on how to do it.
Yeah, King County has a very clear and specific website which goes through the process for recording the modification document. That's where I found out that there are no fees associated with it. We can link to that as an
Yeah,
option.
then it seems like that option number 1 would be the way to go, if we can make it nice and easy and clear for the property owner. My thoughts.
Council President,
Well, it looks like a lot of these are in Twin Lakes, is that correct? Sorry.
There's quite a few in Twin Lakes. There's
Well, I can't imagine, in that length of time,
that was in 1964 they started.
they've got to have been, it was your father's fault, right?
Well, he didn't design Twin Lakes. I just grew up there.
Okay.
He bought the house.
Oh, okay. So, so they've had houses selling
of course,
for multiple years.
yes,
And they do a title search.
yes,
That's the job of the title company.
yes.
And they had to have seen this before, and nobody's ever brought it up.
Yes.
It almost seems kind of like, why should we open up Pandora's box and have people, they're going to call you, Keith. They're going to say, what the heck is this all about? And
They probably will call me, yes.
I would just rather, I don't know about sending out all of those letters. I don't want to cause a problem for the homeowner who doesn't understand it, or for you. And then, boy, those title search companies, you can sue them. I mean, literally, I don't know, because they didn't bring this up before. I mean, they should be told if there's something in the covenant, but,
If it's been voided anyway, I mean.
well, that may be.
I think that's the answer, I think, is that the title companies just note that it's there, but since it's already illegal and unenforceable just automatically, they don't do anything to try to alter or remove it.
It seems to me like we should just eliminate it and put a notice in the paper, or just, let the homeowners association know about it, and if they want to tell well, primarily, they're trying, not all of them. But it just seems to me, I don't want to open up a big problem for you.
I will also note, just because it's relevant to what you just said, that 2 of the 3 options can be taken by the HOA as opposed to the individual property owners. So
maybe you'd want to just notify Twin Lakes and then notify the other homeowners individually, like on 9th Southwest, because they're not obviously in them.
Well, if there's only 288 properties in the whole city, Twin Lakes has got more than 288, so we're probably talking a very small piece of Twin Lakes, which is probably the upper part that opened in 1964 off of 21st. So, I mean, we're not talking a big mailing. And I'm going to go over here to Councilmember McDaniel, I shouldn't have butt in, but I did.
So first of all, I'd like to appreciate you, Chair, for letting me at least have the conversation on this. This was my thing I wanted to bring forward, and now I'm going to go back and give you the reason why I have it brought forward. The comprehensive plan, when it came out, I dug through quite a bit of it. In the housing section, it makes references that Fedway had allowed racial discriminative practices. I made my argument that if you say I've done something and I live in the city of Fedway, I take it personally. If this book, which is now locked into time capsule of what we've done, states that we did something racist, you better bloody well prove it to me. And when I asked someone to prove it to me what the city had done racist, nothing really came back. Now, this was brought up during that period of time, and someone had educated me on what had gone on, and I had looked into it and dug into it more. The UW has actually done quite a bit of research on it. That's where I've got the addresses and the information. But really what pushed me over the level to bring this forward to the council to have this as a conversation is I had gone to an AWC meeting, and we were voting on stuff. And one of the things that someone had requested is to remove the racially terminology that had said that people had done racially restrictive stuff. The argument that came back was a gentleman, I believe, from Mercer Island, who was the city manager, came up and said, because of this titles, we're not changing anything. And I get really sick and tired of people in positions of power using hot potatoes. And I look at this as a hot potato. It's something in the past that people still use in the present day in order to manipulate situations. I'm tired of that. I want it ripped out. I want to have a bunch of sunlight put on this thing, and if it was in the past, tear it apart. Make it go away. It's a blight on our city, and it's a blight on us. And I also would like to see this change so that it actually says, underneath the control of King County, we had these discriminatory practices. As of now, the way this reads, it makes the city sound like it did it. This stuff all happened before 1990. So I want to make that present and make that known. And I think there's going to be some people who actually do not want to change it. That's their personal opinion, and that's their personal choice. But I'd like to let them know, because this is something that I never knew of. And like I said, if the book states that we did something wrong, and I can't be proven that we did something wrong, then I want to clean the record. I want to make sure that people know that we as a city did not do any of this stuff. It was when King County controlled us, and we as a city will actually do something about it, unlike all the other politicians who just kick it down the road or use it during political times as a hot potato to make their points. That's why I brought it forward. I will take option 1. Option 2 is what I really like, but I'd like King County to pay for it if it actually had costs associated to it, since it was their problem. But I'd really like to see one move forward, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Councilmember Honda.
Thank you. Could you put the options up again, please?
Of course.
So, this is what I would like to see happen. I think that the letter should go out, and, well, I would like to see option 2, and the reason why I would like to see option 2 is if the letter goes out, you're going to be flooded with phone calls anyway. There's no getting around that. And what I would like to see in addition, well, for option 2 is to have a meeting in this room of people impacted, and we could offer them help on the spot, tell them exactly how to go to King County and to take care of this if they choose to take care of it, and show that we're willing to help them, and if they're interested in that help. If not, then, we've done the best we could do to help our homeowners. So I think that would be the best thing to do. And is it possible that we're missing any addresses?
So it's possible. I think what we would do before we sent the letter out, assuming that's where we go, is to vet. So UW, I'm pointing this way because she's from UW, is UW put together a database, but King County also has a database. So I think we correlate both and make sure we're not missing anybody. Now, there's also a lot of properties in unincorporated Federal Way, east of I-5. So assuming we do an annexation sometime down the road, we're going to have a bucket of new properties probably to deal with, assuming we do something.
Well, if we deal with it, then maybe King County would like to deal with it with their unincorporated properties. Just saying, I mean, maybe they would.
I hear you.
But I think if we're going to send a letter out, we're going to have a lot of folks reaching out. They're going to be confused. They may not understand what they have to do. And I think it would just be the best possible use of time to say, we're going to have a meeting, come, we'll give you step by step and and help you do it.
So what I heard you say is you think option one plus host a how-to meeting.
Yes.
I'm going to jump in before I go to Councilmember Walsh. I'm the one who will put this on the agenda per Councilmember McDaniel's request. Personally, I'm okay with sending a letter and putting King County's phone number on it. I don't want to take any of our staff time on this project because we have a lot to do before the end of the year. This was requested to get out right away, and I don't personally want to, I'm not going to support anything that takes our staff time to administer this program. I'm willing to send out the letter out of this committee and go to council, but not to encumber our staff on walking people how to do it. That's King County's job, in my opinion. We can notify them, but taking time out of what we have to get done before the end of the year and into the first quarter, I don't think that's a wise use of our time. Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, with me, I think that, send the notification out, and probably send it, for example, those that are in a HOA, in the letter, let them know that it could be done via the HOA, and refer them to the King County website. And at the very most, I think that having a meeting here would be overkill. I think that chances are we'd have a meeting here and one or two people would show up, because the others would have read followed the link to the website and figured out or gone to their HOA. But I mean, at the most, have a, and maybe have Kent's phone number in the letter or something like that, saying, hey, if you have further questions, we suggest that if you want to take action on this, this is the link for King County to be able to take care of it. If you do have questions, feel free to contact the city.
I disagree. Don't put contact the city on that at all, unless you're being tongue-in-cheek funny.
Yeah, well, okay, then find the appropriate person at King County that could take it, and don't tell them we're putting their phone number on it. No. Yeah, but, I think send out the letter and have explicit instructions on it. And also in the letter very specifically say that, it's come to our attention that in bygones ago, that there were things long before the city was incorporated, and it's come to our attention that there's this. We wanted to let you know about it, and if you want to take action, this is what you can do.
Oh, I have something else.
Go ahead. Sorry, Councilmember Honda,
okay.
I didn't see the blue light.
So I think we often hear that we work for the people who live and work here in Federal Way, and this is going to be a surprise to many people. And there's still going to be, even if it says contact King County or contact the University of Washington, they're still going to be contacting us because we're their representatives and we work for them. And I think we need to at least offer them assistance when they ask. And in my opinion, a meeting that could take less than an hour with maybe one or two staff members would be the best possible way to help people out who have questions and are concerned, because we work for the people.
Okay, do I have anybody want to make a motion on what to do here on the committee?
I move that we do option one with very explicit instructions of where they can go, a website or reference to where they can go to know how to do it.
Is there a second? Or
So
an amendment, or?
So you suggest that we do the option one?
Option one, but in that letter, be specific on leading to the website or the place on King County's site, but very explicit instructions on how they can take action if they choose to.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Hold on.
Hold on.
I guess we need to make I guess the main thing is whether it should go to the consent agenda, or if it's going to be pulled from the consent agenda, should it just go right
Go
to
to
the
the
business
consent,
agenda?
go to the consent agenda.
Okay, to the consent agenda, then people can pull it if they want. Okay, to the consent agenda.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Now we're going to move to item J, CE Public Transportation Facilities.
Good evening, I'm still here. And the next two agenda items both relate to Sound Transit. And I'll try and share what I can in as little of a geeky planning way as possible. So the policy question in front of the City Council is, should the City Council approve the proposed code amendments to reclassify public transportation facilities in the CE Commercial Enterprise Zone and industrial use and modify some applicable notes? I'll tell you what all that means. So here's the problem. We changed Title 19, which is our development code, in 2022, really to add a particular land use, which was the light rail station. And what we were trying to do at the time was really to make sure that Sound Transit provided at least 500 parking stalls with that light rail station. That was really what we were doing in 2022. And then came the operation and maintenance yard. So the operation and maintenance yard was not something we anticipated when we did the code amendment in 2022. And all of a sudden, we started looking at this operation and maintenance yard, and we said, well, wait a second, the standards that we put in city code were really more for a light rail station, and all the public coming to the light rail station, and none of the public is coming to this operation and maintenance yard. It's really a different thing. And so the question that we asked ourselves is the operation and maintenance facility an industrial use? All right, so here's a site plan. I don't know if you guys have even seen this. So 336 is up on the north edge. You can see I-5 over here on the east side. This is basically the yellow that's on this plan is building. So you see building with a bunch of track going through the building, and then all of this at the north end of the site, that's just basically track. So what's going to happen is the trains are going to come down here. They're going to get washed. They're going to get, they put sand in them, they pack them, do all that kind of stuff. And then they basically are going to wheel them out there and sit them for the night up here because the service doesn't go all night long, so they need a place to have the trains sit. So as we started talking about how this facility was going to operate, it really felt a lot more like a commercial truck wash or something that was much more of an industrial nature than what we had envisioned with the light rail station. So here's the thing in our city code right now. It says industrial uses mean those uses allowed only in the CE zone, and we rezone Christian Faith Center to CE, as listed in Federal Way Revised Code 010 to 040, and I'm going to get to that next. So here's our table of allowed uses in CE. And if you can see up here, 010 to 040, we consider those industrial uses. So it's manufacturing and production, warehouse distribution, storage facilities, truck stops, automotive emission facilities, commercial photography, communications, hazardous waste treatment and storage, chemical manufacturing, gravel batch plant. So that's our industrial uses in Federal Way. The public transportation facility is way down here at number 135. So really what this code amendment is doing is moving this public transportation facilities up to this section up here. And what that allows us to do is to basically put provisions in the zoning code related to stuff like vibration, noise, and other things that are more typical to industrial uses that could then be applied to the operation and maintenance facility. So we're basically going to put these notes on here. One says, no use or activity may be conducted that involves the unmitigated release of toxins, noxious gases, smoke, fumes, dust, odors, or other discharge on neighboring uses or natural systems. Discharges shall be limited to those allowed by and consistent with all applicable standards and permits regulating those emissions. So right now, what's not underlined is what's in city code now, and what's underlined is what we would propose to add to all of the notes relating to our industrial uses. And the other one is, these uses shall cause no unmitigated, inherent, or reoccurring generated noise or vibration perceptible without instruments at any point along the property line except transportation and delivery operations typically and customarily associated with the use, and provided that such operations are not audible from a residential zone on a regular or reoccurring basis. Mitigation shall be consistent with all local, state, and federal regulations or criteria regulating noise and vibration. So this is really the meat of the changes in the code. We have shared these with Sound Transit, so Sound Transit has seen this language and is okay with us adding this to our city code. And as with Evan and Caitlin, there's criteria in the code about how to change development standards. We followed all of those. Recommendation, Planning Commission recommends approval, and the mayor also recommends approval of the proposed code amendments. So with that, any questions relating to these proposed code amendments?
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, could you go back to that chart where, keep going back, here?
Yes.
Okay, now this really isn't relevant to this, but on that, on the third line there, commercial photography. Why is commercial photography in an area that's?
Chemicals.
Dry cleaners?
I'd say commercial photography from 20 years ago, but commercial photography now is digital. It's not, doesn't use chemicals, you know, just.
So this code goes back to 1990. So I don't disagree with you.
I worked in a photo lab back in the 70s, and then I can see it, but I mean, that's.
Yeah, if you're hanging prints up to dry, if you remember what that smelled like in the acetone, I take your point, and there may be a reason why we might want to move that one along, although I'm not sure many people are opening up commercial photography businesses anymore.
Anyway, that's irrelevant to this discussion, but it brought it up, so anyway.
Yes.
Councilmember Honda?
Thank you. So you're going to move from 1.35 to,
I think it's 025.
why would you need to move it? Why couldn't you just add what you need underneath where it is now?
Because we'd have to change this definition as well. So right now, this definition, so those notes are consistent for industrial uses. And so
Okay.
really, if we want those notes to apply to the O&M facility, it's easier actually to move it up to the section of code that has those notes, as opposed to trying to put noise and vibration notes down here at 135.
Okay. And my second question doesn't have anything to do with this, but the maintenance and operations yard is moving forward, obviously.
Yes, they just submitted their development agreement.
So they have public art at their other facilities?
Yep.
Have they talked to
Yes.
you about that?
So right here, can you see my cursor up here?
Yes.
Okay. So they call that the overlook area, and you have to understand the grade here. The yard itself is significantly lower than 336.
It is?
Yes,
Well, I guess-
it will be.
Okay.
Once they move a lot of dirt, and they're gonna move a lot of dirt. So, it will be lower, and so they call that the observation area. So it's gonna be kind of like a way for you to get out and look down on the yard and the trains and all that kind of stuff. And they're planning to incorporate public art into that observation space.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know what percentage of, we have a 2%, do you know what they have? Is it 1%?
So, do you know, EJ, is there a percentage?
Or just a number that they throw out?
It's 1%, but it's not 1% of the construction cost. It's 1% of public-facing specific components. So I don't know what the budget for this project will be, but it's not as simple as saying a percent of something. It's pretty.
And it's also going to be, if you remember with development agreements, every time you do a deviation from city code, you're supposed to give us a public benefit back. So we're still working through with them what their list of public benefits are for this facility. And the observation space is clearly, I think, going to be one of those. So if they have a requirement for 1%, to add some additional to be a public benefit as well might be part of the conversation we would have.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Councilmember Daniel?
On this slide right here, did they change the orientation of this, or is this how it originally came?
So the orientation is
feels
constantly moving. So they have also, so they're gonna proceed similar to how they built the downtown station. So they're gonna execute a design build contract for a contractor to come in and basically situate this thing on the site the way it fits best. What you have going on here is you have a stream over on the east side. That's a West Fork Hylabo stream. And then you have a stream on the west side as well. So you have critical areas on both the east and west. So part of the conversation has been, how do we get this footprint as small as possible to impact our critical areas the least amount possible?
Gotcha. And I'm assuming, is the noisiest part the middle part?
I don't even know the answer to that question. When we had a conversation with them about noise related to the EIS, they said, well, I-5 is going to be louder than anything here anyway.
Oh.
And I don't know that we believe them, but that's what they said.
All right. Yeah, I was just curious on that one, because I know there's a bunch of the condos and houses over on the other side of that one. And when I saw that, I was like,
no,
it's not the same orientation.
We actually had some people on the north side of 336 come in when we rezoned the property to CE, and they were very concerned about noise. And we told them we'd try and do this exact thing here and at least add some provisions that allows us to kind of get after them if it's got a lot of vibration or a lot of noise or a lot of lights.
Gotcha. And then can you move to the slide that has the changing of the verbiage?
Yep.
All right. So what do you guys, what is the definition of unmitigated?
That means they have to address it some way. They have to lessen it. In some way, they have to do something to make it less bad than it otherwise would be.
Okay, so because I see how it's involving used to be release of toxins, now do unmitigated.
Yeah, so here's the deal. I mean, I think their biggest concern, and Kent had more conversations than I did, but my understanding is their biggest concern is it's not going to be zero, right? There's going to be noise. There's going to be some vibration. Those kind of things will happen. And the way the city code read today or before, it basically would give you the impression if there's anything that's a problem. And what they're saying is we're willing to take steps to make it as low as possible, but it's going to be within certain parameters that we can actually, that are reasonable and not unreasonable.
Gotcha. That's it. Thank you.
Councilmember Walsh?
Yeah, hey, go back to the map for just a second.
Yeah.
Another question. When, with the Tacoma Link extension.
Yes.
Where does it go through here to go south?
So the track that goes down to our South Station area and then down to Tacoma, right here, it's next to I-5. So you see, basically, the track comes down, and then they can swing into the O&M facility, and then you do a bunch of train cleaning, and then it pops back over and goes south from here.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Honda?
Thanks. So what happens when once this is up and running and the noise is more significant than anyone thought? Because when we visited the maintenance yard in Seattle, which is in an industrial area, every time a train moved, they beeped the horn 3 times. And there's going to be a lot of trains moving through here at nighttime. And the houses are right across the street. So what happens if we find that it's just not acceptable to the folks that are living there? Because we need to really be thinking about them. They were there first.
Yep.
What could we do to handle that if it happens?
Sure. So code compliance has a noise meter. And if, let's assume that this is creating a significant amount of noise at 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever, co-compliance would go out and try and measure that noise problem. And if it exceeded city standards, we could cite Sound Transit for that, which maybe the correction would be they would have to build some sort of sound attenuation here on the site after the fact. So there is an opportunity, but unfortunately it's going to be complaint-based. So if ultimately there's a problem, I think our residents will let us know, and then we're going to need to work with Sound Transit. And hopefully, hopefully they have a very significant presence in Federal Way, and I'm hoping that, if there was a problem, that they would do something about it.
Why can't we require that now, knowing that there is a potential that this is going to happen?
We don't know that. So again, we asked those questions of their staff. They brought 2 noise consultants in to try and answer our questions. The 2 noise consultants argued with each other. I'm not sure what the resolve was, other than noise was handled in their EIS.
Okay.
And I think until we know that there's a problem that wasn't addressed in their EIS, we just have to kind of wait.
All right, thanks.
And those notes, if you could pull the notes back up again. The notes specifically do say that the noise that's emitted has to be consistent with all local, state, and federal regulations. So we do have a noise ordinance in the city that specifies certain noise levels that's applicable to all uses inside the city. If they're violating that, like Keith said, we can cite them for it.
So Councilmember Honda brings up a good point. At the very end of this, at item L, we're going to talk about aviation noise and health issues. Why aren't we putting in specifically what our noise ordinance is, so everybody can read it and knows what it is, so we don't have a potential airport issue like we do with noise of planes landing over our northern part of our city? I mean, you're saying we have an ordinance. If we have an ordinance, why aren't we more specific and say, this is the ordinance that you will have to live up to? And if they don't, then they know there's going to be an issue. And if they do, then there's not an
That's what this note says.
Well, no, it doesn't. It says.
All applicable.
It doesn't outline what our noise ordinance is. It just says the noise.
Yeah, fair enough. Your point's well taken. I guess it's not possible to list out absolutely every single possible regulation that would
Well, no, but the
apply to
noise
it.
is, again, I think Councilmember Honda has a very good point. Noise is going to be the biggest issue, I believe. And if we know what our ordinance is, why aren't we willing to just say, this is our ordinance and this is what you're going to have to live with? Instead of getting into a you said, she said 20 years from now, when none of us are here and, the trains are going by.
So, council member, you lost me a little bit. So are you talking about the airport issue as
No,
item
I'm
L,
using.
or are you talking about this?
I'm just using that as an
Yeah.
example. In 1960, when they built the airport or whenever it was, noise was noise and nobody put up with it. Now we're 2025, it's an issue. This is going to be an issue to somebody somewhere that lives next door. It's going to happen. So instead of just making it vague and saying this is our ordinance, why don't we just say this is our ordinance you got to live with?
Well, it does. I think it does say that. It says
do?
you have to comply with our local codes.
But it doesn't say what our local code is.
Chair, are you looking at adding and including our noise ordinance, just
I'd be
adding the verbiage in there that's.
Yeah,
lists
I'd just
it
be
out?
really, really specific, because this is a very specific project. And someday it's going to be sitting people out here saying, hey, these trains drive by. And they'll say, well, you just said their ordinance, their 2 noise people argued what it is.
So generally, we don't write code to specifically identify one section of code, one chapter, and not the rest of the code, right? Starts to make some arguments that, well, we really just meant noise and not all the other pieces of code. So I'm going to defer to the city attorney on that one, but my suggestion would be, I think it's strongest the way it is now, even though you think it's ambiguous.
My suggestion also, we can do that. We can absolutely do what you suggested. My suggestion would also be to keep it as is. The thing is, there are a lot of other sections of our code that also potentially apply to this situation. For instance, we have a whole nuisance code
that has various different violations that could be associated with noise and stuff like that as well. When we list one thing, as in we list the noise ordinance, and we don't go list every other thing in the code that could potentially apply to it, it can create a legal presumption that we only care about the noise ordinance and not the other nuisance laws that might apply to it. So my preference, just from a code drafting standpoint, would be to keep it as is, but we could absolutely do it the way you're suggesting.
Or you could leave it as is, but give them the noise ordinance and have them sign the bottom that they read it.
So, and council members, I'm gonna put this on your radar. So remember, we're negotiating a development agreement with Sound Transit.
Yes.
And if your concern is that the noise piece doesn't feel as baked as you want it to be, then I think you can make a suggestion to staff, and we'll take it under advisement, that we maybe think about putting something in the development agreement about noise that's in addition to what's.
I'm okay with that.
It seems like that'd be more appropriate.
Yeah, I just don't, again, 10 years from now, and nobody sitting up here is up here, or anybody sitting here is here, and the citizens come and complain about noise, it should be good record that in the agreement, Sound Transit was notified of what our ordinances are.
I mean, like, would anyone here want to live next to it? No. So,
It's gonna be down in a hole, remember?
Yeah.
and the noise could go up and over.
If you have little kids and you want to see trains go by, you might.
Yeah.
Might be at the next big place. Okay.
Okay.
Who's got a motion or another?
I move to forward the proposed ordinance for first reading on October 21, 2025.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
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 And thank you very much. And just to be clear on both my agenda bills, apparently I forgot there was an election on the 4th. So my second reading says the 4th, but it should say the 5th. So I
that's
think we
fine.
were going to hand fix that, but I just
Okay.
wanted you guys to, thank you,
Let's-
Sarah,
Now
to
we'll
recognize that I got that wrong.
We can have a meeting here. And now we got ordinance, light rail infrastructure. Item
Yes.
K.
Okay, so this one here, again, I'll try and.
Looks like a great place for graffiti. I hope we got a plan. We got a boom truck to get up there and get rid of that stuff.
Going down the freeway, though, one thing I've noticed is in the DOT area, or Wazot area, there's graffiti. In the Sound Transit area, graffiti's been covered over.
Yeah, oh,
And
good.
so hopefully they continue that.
It's because it's still under contract by the contractor, would be my guess. All right, so we're focusing, we're losing focus here late night. Light rail track code amendment. And so the policy question in front of the city council, should the city council approve the proposed code amendments to create a specific land use for light rail infrastructure? And I'll explain why. So the problem is there's no land use category that works for light rail track. Sound Transit expects to build approximately 4.5 miles, I'm not sure what the comma's for, of additional track in the city. So right now, the city code reads, unzoned property and right-of-way uses, any property within the city which for any reason does not have a zone on the map will be construed to be within the SE, which is suburban estate zone, provided, however, that the uses permitted within the public rights-of-way shall be governed by the terms of an applicable franchise agreement and the provisions of Title IV. You can say, okay, what does all that mean?
We can
So-
bill them.
So here's a map of TDLE, basically. Coming south through Belmore, we know right now that the station is going to be here, and then the track is going to run down Pack Highway. But it's actually not in Pack Highway. It's not in the Pack Highway right away. It's actually on private property, currently private property, but it will be owned by Sound Transit or in an easement someday. So the way our code is when it's not in right of way, it's on private property, and that private property has zoning. That zoning has a maximum height of structures. It also has setbacks from property lines. Both of those are really problematic for what Sound Transit is doing, which is buying as small of a piece of property as possible to put their track in. And also, their track is as high as it needs to be. In other words, they basically balance out that horizontal, that vertical grade so that the trains can run as fast as they can, right? So they're not making it any taller than they need to because, like, why would they? That just costs more money. And they're not making it any shorter than they need to because that means they have to slow down because the trains are dipping, right? So here, what we're doing is, I think we're really just trying to change our city code to allow basically light rail infrastructure as a land use. The only one who's ever going to build it is Sound Transit. But this helps us get through the permitting process, I think, very efficiently. And again, it's not like we're just dealing with a little piece. We got 4.5 miles to figure out in the city at the end of the day. So that is this one. Basically, we're creating these use tables with light rail as a land use. It's got, as you can see, no maximum building height, no property setbacks, but still things like landscaping and design. They have to apply whatever requirements are in city code for those things. And these are all the zones: SE, RS, which is single family, RM is multifamily, office park, commercial enterprise, and city center core. All those different zones are going to have track in it. So again, same criteria to approve a code amendment. We think it meets all of those. Options considered: approve, don't approve, give direction to staff. Planning Commission thought it was great, so does the mayor. If you have questions, I'm ready for questions.
I just have one question. Is this the same thing other cities did? Because they all have the same, we all have the same issue.
I don't know of another city that did this. But again, I don't know how other cities deal with, they might deal with it as essential public facility.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mix is the answer. You don't even need to do what we're doing here when the tracks are in right-of-way. So this is a fix only for situations where they're going over private property. So some cities that's more or less in right-of-way than others, if that makes sense, so that they don't even need to worry about this. So yeah, it's kind of a mix is the general theme in terms of how cities are regulating this.
So the way our code is structured, just the way that it's structured now, is they would need to, so the track itself would fall under the provisions of any other structure within that zone. So if there's a 20-foot property setback, if there's a 30-foot building height, all of those things would apply to the track as well, not just a house. And so that's going to cause some problems, probably in a lot of places.
And just for a very specific example of that, if you remember back to looking at the O&M facility and the fact that there were tracks coming out of the O&M facility to the line that's directly east of it, that line is not on city property, but the tracks have to cross onto city property to get to the O&M facility. If there's a 5-foot setback that's applicable to the tracks, that means the track can never cross the property line because it can't be within 5 feet of the property line. So it creates an impossibility, basically. So that's a good example of what we're trying to solve for here, is we're trying to solve for not able to have your tracks go into the O&M facility.
Councilman Daniel?
Yeah, some of my questions got answered already, but so if this does not pass, are they literally not able to build out then?
Yeah, good question. And I probably should have said this when I was answering one of the previous questions. So they're an essential public facility under state law. And basically, cities can't prevent the siting of essential public facilities under state law. And so if our code is drafted in a way that prohibits them from citing the essential public facility, like if we don't allow tracks across property lines, for instance, that would be illegal and we wouldn't be able to deny their permit legally on that basis.
So they would be able to do it even if we don't make the change?
That's correct. They'd be able to do it even if we didn't make these changes.
All right. Is there any benefit to the city doing this?
Oh, yeah, this makes it, so that is a bunch of, we're not meeting code, we're not meeting code, we're not meeting code, where we have to then say, well, you're an essential public facility, so that's okay. That takes a bunch of actions from us administratively.
Yeah.
This is just makes it simple, because like they'll make those permits, applications for those tracks. There's basically no standards. It's just check, done, check, it's okay, you know, so it makes it way more efficient for us if this code is changed this way.
And when you say permitting, those permitting fees go along with it too, right?
Yes, they will pay permits.
That's all I cared about.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, do I have a motion?
I move to forward the proposed ordinance for first reading on October 21, 2025.
Second?
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Thank you.
Bill, you've been sitting here for a information-only presentation, but a very important one with the airport.
I have to apologize that my color palette will be 1990,
Inexcusable.
and, I can't seem to find the mouse on it.
There's a template out there for you.
There we go. And
The new city
we
template.
still, my daughter and I still send out our film to be processed with the chemicals.
Where do you send it? Turkey?
Bellevue, actually.
Bellevue,
Yeah,
okay.
Bellevue, they just celebrated their 60th anniversary, but anyway, that's another story. This, Chair Dovey, members of the committee, Council President Kochmar, members of the council who are here, you received this notification last week, and there are a few more details, but this is also for those out in the public in our city of 100,000, so they know and have an update of what's going on. So as you know, we're here to bring you up to speed on the next timeline for the SeaTac Airport Sustainable Airport Master Plan, and the process continues. And as we know, the reason why this whole situation is happening is their traffic's going to go from 46.9 million in 2017 to 56 million in 2027. And they propose to expand the airport by 19 gates, a new passenger terminal, high-speed taxiway, added cargo facilities, and 30-plus other projects. One of them we'll talk about in a minute that benefits Federal Way. And of course, this will result in greater noise and health impacts. So the first part of the process, we all participated, you as a LUTC and a council last November, October, November, December, and that was being part of the NEPA process, the National Environmental Policy Act process. The second part is coming up, and that's the state SEPA process, and that's what we're going to be gearing up for. And basically, that is now in the first quarter of 2026. Originally, it was going to be like this meeting, so that's why I've had a placeholder on this meeting for almost a year. So the next step is after the SEPA happens, we then have our opportunity to take our case to the Planning Commission, because the the Port Commission will take up both results of the national and the state environmental impact situations. And that's where I think we can have the most leverage. So, because it has to be certified by the Port Commission. So, much like now with the SEPA process coming up here, we'll have 45-day public notice. There will be public meetings like the ones we had last time. We anticipate Federal Way will be a part of that again, so our residents and we can go. And there were in-person comments, there were comments online. And one important thing was we even had, they had a hearing examiner there as well too. So now the update on the NEPA process is, as you know from your email last week, is basically the FAA has approved a final environmental assessment, and they have a finding of no significant impact or record. But that's the national viewpoint. That is with them looking at the area surrounding the airport. As we know with the 1970, not 1990 strictures on noise, it's really about average. It's really about what's happening around the airport. That's why all the installation programs were there. But we're in a different world, and that's how we're going to advocate as a city, I believe. Now, they did note 17 findings, but the 17 findings are, for instance, they're all about typical, 16 of them are about typical construction strictures with building an airport. And the last one is apparently the port is now going to have to change and update 26 different intersections. Now, the port will be considering this for information in a couple of weeks, and so we will monitor that meeting because that is now in addition to what they thought they would be doing when they were investing in the strategic plan for what's going on there. Now, of course, there's one project that does benefit this city, and that's where Dave Berger and Chris Hall from Marine Hills discovered that the first runway ever created flying over Steel Lake is at a lower degree than what's standard. It's supposed to be 3 degrees and it's 2.75. This project will raise that. But for years and years, and no one can figure out in the port how that happened. It could have been B-17s, DC-3s, 707s. At one point, that approach comes lower over our city, meaning more noise, et cetera, so that will be alleviated. That's one part of the project. But as we've said, as you said in your letter to them about the national environmental impact statement, while we want a successful airport, we also want it to be healthy and not have the noise and the health risks that exist and now will be increased by the 19 gates. Now, as you're listening on the radio and watching on television, you'll note that the positioning of this whole enterprise is about the customer experience. You know, their spokespeople will be on TV, oh my gosh, it's horrible getting on a flight, all the lines, all the things that other airports have. And I think we will also, I recommend, we also talk about the customer experience of the people who live under the flights that are helping our economy, helping this airport. So, but that's in the future. And we've already talked about the impact. This is the statistic on the 3 degrees that'll be raised to when it's right now 2.75. So we are now looking at the national environmental policy document to dig into how they responded to what we asked for, what other cities asked for. And this will help us respond during the state, the SEPA as well too. So, like we said before, and you reiterated in your letter last year, you know, we'll be advocating for possible, things to solve the challenge with noise challenges, emissions solutions, late night air noise, and what we can do federally and statewide to maybe make it so that there is more things that can be done for our residents. Because right now, we're not sort of considered in that noise and particulate pattern. And so we will continue this, and I will be giving you updates at all the LUTC meetings from now on. They'll be mostly in writing. They may not need to be talked about at the microphone, except for key things, or as we try to formulate our strategy. So we'll be erudite, but we'll be strategic. So, any questions?
Councilmember Tran?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Bill.
You're welcome.
So, I heard some rumors that there's a possibility that Walla Walla is potential site for a new airport. And also another rumor was they was looking at the air base down in Tacoma and make that become a part of commercial. You hear anything about that?
What I'll do is I'll send you at the end of my report there should be the links to the group that's considering other airport locations. I'll look that up and I'll keep you posted on that. I think the ones in Pierce County were summarily rejected because of the impact. But Walla Walla, there's been talk about Moses Lake, and that people would come in on a speed train. And even, sounds like there might be something to do with Everett in the future too, because they're beginning to see what could be done, but they'll have a sort of limit on it, so they can make it better for the residents. But I'll get you the latest on that in the next couple days. How's that sound?
Thank you.
Great.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, what, with the change from the 2.75 to the 3% degree, is there a noticeable decibel change? And has that been all, I mean, I know they've done a lot of reports on that stuff. How much of a difference does that can actually make in noise for the residents?
I'll find out.
Okay.
But it's when you think about them starting to come in at that angle from the south of Federal Way to the north of Federal Way, it would be different.
It seems like a small number, but it could make I'm assuming it actually has a pretty big difference in the noise.
Yeah, when you stretch it out from the southbound runway and take it up in a line, and then you compare the two, it is quite a difference. But you're right, it's something. So I'll try to get that for you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up before we close? Okay, our next meeting will be November 3rd, which is before the election, and then we'll have a meeting after the election. Okay. We'll now adjourn. Thank you.